It's a big day for Spec-5 World Tour because we're on a big track. It's Monza combined, Grand Prix circuit and oval, one over 6 mile loop. So much of it spent at full throttle. This is not just the temple of speed, but it's heaven and the afterlife too. You're watching it live on HJBC. David Haynes with Reese Gardner and Michael Derby. So we look forward to a really, really special race, Reese.
Oh yeah, Eugenio Pellicci selecting his home track, and it is the craziest version of his home track. We are at Monza combined, the 10-kilometer combined oval and Grand Prix course layout with the chicanes, of course. So we're going to be seeing lap times of about 3.5 minutes around here and an awful lot of slipstreaming. It's going to be fun.
Strategically, it becomes a very, very interesting race. It is our 45-minute duration, but that's not going to be all that many laps on this mega circuit. And as they head towards qualifying, it also makes qualifying very, very interesting. Almost becomes one-shot qualifying that we're not so much used to in Spec-5 World Tour. Thank you so much for joining us live. We are clicking over into qualifying now. Knowing what you know about this almost 4-minute lap time, how would you approach the 15-minute qualifying?
I would probably watch a few Zen philosophy clips and play some calm music in the background, because inevitably when I get an off track at one of the chicanes, I would rage hard. It's a long lap and a single mistake can cost you. So let's hope that the drivers are able to get the times down that they're happy with. There's going to be quite a bit to think about in terms of pit strategy as well, but there is turn one, the old banked oval. Thank goodness iRacing made it drivable, otherwise we would never see this. Huge high banking here, completely flat out in just about any car you please.
I've seen it get a bit sketch in the 1987 NASCAR's Unrestricted, to be honest. Well, I guess it becomes less of a 2-lane racetrack at that point. It is bumpy, it is narrow-ish, for a super speedway at least, but it is heavily, heavily banked. Jared Collins comes out of the pit lane. He's immediately on full throttle, and he will be for the next 2 minutes. But it's about picking your line and the line of least resistance around the banking. The faster you're going, the higher up the banking you should be. So at low speed, to be way up high would be causing scrub, but at high speed, to be way down low causes too much tyre scrubbing. You're looking for that just to be caught in the cradle in the path of least resistance. Now Monza starts to look a little bit more like how you remember it, except with the green concrete down the middle, making it a little bit narrower till you eventually get to what we would ordinarily call turn one.
Yeah, technically turn 5 if we're using US oval racing turn number assignments, or turn 3 if you're just talking about bends in the road. It is still the outlap for Jared Collins. He still needs to make his way all the way around the Grand Prix circuit in order to actually get the lap going. But Monza is Monza. It's full of long straights, heavy braking zones into the chicanes besides. This track is all about straight line speed and maintaining it to the best of your ability.
Yeah, so I'm doing them numbers in my head. Lap time's just over 3.5 minutes. You do this outlap. It's possible. It's possible to do an outlap and 4 flying laps, just.
Yeah, you'd have to be on your way out of the pits as soon as the clock starts, though. So I don't know if there are going to be many drivers who are actually going to see all 4 of those hot laps. When it comes to pit strategy as well, we usually talk about like a 15-minute window in the middle of the race. That's basically only 5 laps around here, if that drivers have to sort out when they're going to be coming into pit lane. So I think there might be some questions over fuel usage as well. It being such a long lap, You miss the pits when you're supposed to come in, and you are not making it back around.
Yeah, believe there's... What? How many numbers on a normal roulette wheel? Because when it comes to making your pit stop here, you've got far less options.
The only gambling I engage with is scratchies, so yeah, I'm not entirely sure how many numbers are on a roulette wheel. But regardless, Jared Collins is going to throw his dice into the ring and start his first hot lap. Flat out for the next minute and change, at least.
So he's looking towards that yellow line. You can see there are a couple of seams in this old concrete banking. And so it makes a couple of little jinks. There's almost 5 lanes of each slightly different banking rather than a pure curve. And so Collins is sort of looking for one of those lanes to just ride the car in there and carry as much momentum as possible. Almost a minute into this lap, and his throttle pedal will not have moved from 100%.
You could lay a brick down on your throttle pedal and walk away for about 10 seconds or so to grab a drink, and you still wouldn't make it to the other end of the oval. Out of the second of the bankings here, and the Grand Prix circuit is rejoined. It's amazing how much that wall affects your perspective, because you go down the normal start finish straight at Monza. You're so used to having that super wide stretch of tarmac in front of you. Put that green concrete wall in the middle, and suddenly the track gets a lot narrower on both sides. Collins into Rettifilio then, and manages to bring the speed down nicely. It's all about the exit though.
Yep. Exactly. So you're about halfway around your lap now. At this point, the whole oval seems to be, almost just 2 sectors. So for Jared Collins, no purple sectors for him so far, but again, what you don't want to do, so what you were suggesting might, tip you over the edge, is to go 2/3 of the way around one of these laps and then get an off track in that second chicane or exiting Ascari.
So into Lesmo 2, and that is a good run through for Jared Collins. Now we'll see what that run through Ascari is like. You can use quite a bit of the curbs through this section, but once again, it's a matter of mere millimeters. The MX-5 does handle curbs very nicely. Let's see how much Jared Collins takes here. No, he's only just kissing that first apex there. You could take a little bit more out of it, but all the way over the speed bump at the final apex of Ascari, and now just 1 corner to go.
His lap's already past 3 minutes, and then after the parabolica, you stay on the right-hand side of the pit straight past the pit entry, and there is the start-finish timing line. We're about to get a bunch of lap times come in. Purple sectors so far belong to drivers like Brandon Hawkin, Eugenio Pollicci, and Mitchell Peak. And here's Jared Collins exiting parabolica, and now we narrow. Go past the timing tower, past the podium. And Brandon Hawkin goes to the top of qualifying. Jared Collins goes to second. Odyssey Adams slots in behind that. Donnie Moffat jumps into second place, just beating Jared Collins. Then Eugenio Pollicci goes to the top of qualifying.
Hey.
Now 18 drivers qualifying times in, and Paolo Coimbra seems to have the best time from open class. Oh, Policci's got a new livery as well. He's got his dog on the front. He's got the Italian flag. He's got the logo of Monza. This is the equivalent to you or I putting on the, green and gold.
Yes, exactly. Eugenio Pollicci, of course, of Italy, and walks his dog in the park at Monza. Got him on the bonnet and the boot, so to speak. Mike Oswald in in a very synthwave looking livery as well. Gets 14th spot for the moment on a 3:29.7, but Eugenio Pollicci is all on his own in the 3-minute 27 bracket at the moment.
High quality Italian razor wire right there. Ryan Pendicio has no time yet. It looks like Thomas Fisher's lap time was invalidated, and Peter Resorkis and Mark Cheng as well. They've all completed a flying lap but had no time registered. For Ryan Pendicio, he was just a little bit later getting out of pit lane, might only get 3 flying laps in this session. But from what we know so far, this time ought to be valid. Timing line is there, and he'll jump to 23rd. So I feel like the timing line is where it is on the normal Grand Prix circuit.
Yeah, I think that's the case. I mean, I don't see why they would move it for this specific layout. Oh, Brandon Hawken, you can always rely on him to get the rear end loose. He's really powering it out of these chicanes, isn't he? He's got a lap time to chase, and that can be dangerous. Eugenio Pollicci currently sitting about 0.3 of a second ahead of him. Now, how much of a slide is there on Lesmo 2? Oh, that would have been just on the verge of an off-track, if not an off-track, from Brandon Hawken there.
Yes, and he's only made so much improvement around this lap so far. I think he's just a couple of tenths down. Jared Collins, I think, has definitely gone the first flying lap easy, push harder on the next one way of doing it. He's in a very similar part of the racetrack right now, just exiting the Ascari chicane with the Parabolica to go. There's a few other drivers like him that will be pushing just a little bit harder on this lap than they were on the first one. While Thomas Fisher, Peter Resorkis and Mark Cheng will be hoping their lap times count. I think Mark Cheng has binned it somewhere, so still no time from him. Jared Collins a tiny bit wide through Parabolica, but it's the exit that matters. And we're about to see if drivers can go quicker on lap number 2 than lap number 1.
Indeed. So wait for these times to come in. I see Pollicci is exiting the final corner as well. So let's see. Jared Collins. Jared Collins does improve to a 3:29.0. Sean Hayes moves up to 3rd. Thomas Fisher up to 12th. Resorkis to 22nd. Murgatroyd moves to 18th fastest. Pollicci runs a bit slower than his earlier lap time, but still maintains pole position for the moment. Brandon Hawken, as you said, unable to improve. It seems like the first lap was the fastest.
Yeah, Pollicci and Hawken, who are still holding down first and second, both 1/10 slower than they were on their first lap. Only option now really would be back it off this lap, cool off the tyres, and kind of maybe go for one more. No, not really. I think it's this and that. Stun. So time runs out really quickly when you're racing on a 6.5 mile racetrack. Mike Oswalt jumps from 15th to 10th.
Some nice lap times coming in here. Some drivers able to improve on the second lap. As Brandon Hawken now is back on the Grand Prix circuit, we'll see what kind of times he can pull off here. Still got 3 minutes to go in the session. I think for many of these drivers, this lap is going to be their last one.
Genius of this layout is that everyone in the grandstand at the start-finish straight there gets to see the cars twice a lap. Perfect.
Yes.
No personal bests from Pollicci or Hawken or Sean Hayes in 3rd or Donnie Moffat in 4th, but Lincoln Fox went just a little bit quicker exiting the oval section. Mitchell Peak also going a tiny bit quicker. There's a bunch of drivers that didn't get a time in earlier or had a problem that might improve. So Rob Conahan's first lap time was not allowed. Mark Cheng doesn't seem to have gone back out on track or in any time to be able to get a lap time done. Damien Pacheco as well, and Michael Tannegretta is putting together a lap time. We're on board now with Mitchell Peak. It does not look like he's got a whole lot of grip through the first Les mode.
No, Oh, it looks like that lap's going to be a bust then, and that is Mitchell Peak's qualifying session over. Lincoln Fox looking a lot smoother on the wheel on the way through the Lesmos. And now we'll see Ascari beckon. Let's see how aggressive he is over the curbs there. I think it's worth a couple of tenths at least to try and attack those curbs a little harder at this chicane that has been in place in one form or another since the early 1970s. Looks like he's looking quite confident over those curbs. So we'll see if this ends up being of any benefit to the number 48. We're seeing loads and loads of drivers about to get their final lap times on the board, and I'm really interested to see what improvements can be made. I see that Hawken is about to approach the line. I believe Polici is as well. So we'll see what kind of response there is. Hawken's actually going for pit lane, so he is not going to commit to another lap here.
Yeah, he wasn't improving. Lincoln Fox might.
Fisher
At
does.
the moment, yeah, gets displaced by Fisher and then jumps up into third. So Lincoln Fox going quicker on the very, very final lap. Polici and Hawken not able to do so, but Fox into third, Moffat up into fifth, Fisher up into sixth.
Some nice improvements there on the final lap. Andres Navarro trying his best to work his way out from 27th. 3 minutes and 31 seconds is the time that he has, and looks like he's going to go for pit lane as well. I think it's actually quite a good idea for drivers to be coming into pit lane and qualifying. If there's any track where you need to practice your pit entry, it's this one.
And Okayama.
Yes, absolutely Okayama. But that's going to be the grid now, David. We have a roster.
Yes, 15 minutes is not long for qualifying at all, and drivers were lucky to be able to get 3 laps in. And Eugenio Polici went quickest on his first lap, and it still stands. Brandon Hawken just behind him in second. Lincoln Fox jumping up to third late in that session. Sean Hayes with fourth. Donnie Moffat with fifth. Thomas Fisher in sixth. And Jared Collins seventh. Odyssey Adams in eighth. And Mitchell Peak ninth. Michael Coates 10th.
Starting in 11th place is going to be Mike Oswalt, and then he has Brian Jabelski joining him on row number 6. Lee Martin is going to take pole position for the open class with Tom Athon alongside. Jack Stadola and Peter Rosokis are your 8th row, with Polo and Rui Coimbra sharing the 9th row of the grid. Paul Murgatroyd and Geordie Fike rounding out your top 20.
Kyle Genske has qualified 21st, Mark Kruger in 22nd, Rob Conahan in 23rd, Travis Hewitt in 24th, Tim Collier in 25th, Michael Tanagretta in 26th, Andreas Navarro in 27th, Ryan Penzisio in 28th, Glenn Blanchard in 29th, Gerard Brady in 30th, I think is the last driver who laid down a qualifying time. Mark Chang's first lap was invalidated, and then he towed on his second lap. I think Damon Pacheco was late to get on track in qualifying and didn't set a lap time either, but 33 drivers can all claim their own little patch of Autodromo Nazionale Monza combined. 15 turns, but 6.5 miles, 10 kilometers.
Yeah, it's a crazy track length. The third longest circuit configuration on iRacing, I believe. Only Le Mans and the Nordschleife are longer. So we will see them pull away now on the formation lap. Good opportunity as they come up to the flag to go through the points and such coming into this round.
Yes, Brandon Hawken remains the championship leader after 10 rounds on 829 points. Ahead of Joshua Soto, Michael Coates, Donnie Moffat jumping his teammate Eugenio Polici in the last 2 rounds. Then Kyle Genske, Odyssey Adams, Mike Oswalt, Mitchell Peak, and Rui Coimbra. That's with 2 of 3 drop rounds counted at this stage.
In the open class, Travis Ewart is leading the way with Jack Stadola still maintaining second place. Lee Martin has a good points opportunity here, taking the open class pole for this round. He's 30 points ahead of Jason Stalker in third place. Murgatroyd, Kruger, Tuck, Cheng, Pandicio, and DeGrand rounding out your top 10 for that.
Mr. Clean is a championship that rewards clean driving, but also participation and completing every race. Brian Jabelski and Lee Martin are tied up top there with Brandon Hawken, Michael Tuck, Michael Coates, Jack Stadola, Mike Oswalt, Geordie Fike, Mark Kruger, and Joshua Soto. We're coming around to the front stretch. The pace car's about to pull in. When the green flag waves, we are going to go to full throttle, and we won't lift until we've done the first lap of Monza's banking. In line, waiting for the green flag. It's a narrow start-finish straight here, and as the green flag waves, the Mazdas roar into life. Eugenio Pollicci, the pole sitter, immediately gets the bump from Lincoln Fox, and it is going to look right-hand turning super speedway for the next 2 minutes.
2x2, some 15 cars deep as they make their way into the first corner, and the slipstream really kicks in now. Hawken on the slightly higher line. Pollicci's playing this very well. You mentioned in qualifying, David, that the slower you're going, the tighter you should be on the oval, and it's working out well for those on the low line at the moment. Pollicci followed by Lincoln Fox and Donnie Moffat, but now they're going to go 3 wide with Sean Hayes leaving Brandon Hawken with no one to slipstream off.
Triple bump for Eugenio Pollicci, being pushed by Lincoln Fox and the teammate Donnie Moffat, giving a telekinetic bump draft from a couple of cars back as we enter the banking here. Hawken's in a good position. That's the line of least resistance there, but he's got no one helping him. If he can link up with Sean Hayes, you get a lot of momentum off the banking on the high line, but Hayes doesn't seem to want to do that. He wants to hold his own lane.
Just breaching 200 kilometers per hour as they make their way back onto the main start-finish straight. And now, this is where you try and position yourself for the first chicane. You think Monza Turn 1 is a meme in GT3s? What about here in MX5s after coming off the oval? Contact for the lead. Pollicci getting bumped, but he manages to make the corner. His engine is gone. Pollicci got bumped, and it looked like he went too high on the downshifts, and there's more cars off. Moffat and Fox into the gravel trap. Disaster at the front.
The pole sitter got bumped as he was making the downshift, over-revved the engine and blew it. Then Lincoln Fox and Donnie Moffat come together. Both of them find the wall on the exit of the first chicane. Brandon Hawken leads from Sean Hayes and Thomas Fisher, and Eugenio Pollicci will have his heart broken.
Yeah, that my heart's broken too. I really wanted Eugenio to do well at this one, but unfortunately, mistimed bump in the braking zone probably coincided with a downshift there, and unfortunately over-revving the engine. These 4 cylinders that the MX-5 runs, they can take quite a beating, but even they have their breaking point.
Jared Collins carrying a slowdown penalty at the moment, dropping some positions. That's just behind us here. There he is, pulling over to one side, having to let a lot of the pack go. He's cut one of the chicanes, and it's costing him big time. He's cleared it now. Donnie Moffat and Gerard Brady also with the same problem. There's 3 cars on the pit lane, and it's Pollicci, Fox, and Coimbra also picking up some damage on this opening lap so far. We check in with Mike Oswalt. He's +5 spots.
Yes, Oswalt's doing pretty well at the moment, and we'll see now as they come into Parabolica what the next run onto the oval is going to be like. They do need to be careful that Brandon Hawken doesn't break away too much, because then he'll everyone behind him will completely lose the slipstream. For the moment, it is Hawken, Hayes, and Fisher, your top 3, and Hawken in the lead by about half a second and change.
I believe if you were leading by 4 seconds coming out of the Parabolica, second and third bump drafting could still run you down. It's ridiculous. 3 wide, entering the old concrete banking again for Jared Collins, Peter Resorkis, and therefore that must be Geordie Fike on the low line. At the lead of the race, Sean Hayes goes past Brandon Hawkins, so it's action aplenty now as the field has been slightly spread. They come onto the banking again and the gaps will close.
There's the 4-car train down low as it's a 4-car train for the lead, and it's going to be a bump draft between the teammates of Thomas Fisher and Mitchell Peake as they push Sean Hayes and Brandon Hawkins along down the back stretch here. This old layout of Monza, the oval itself in its current form dating from the 1950s, late 1950s, early 1960s. There was an oval here when the track first opened in the early 1920s, but the banking was slightly lower and it was a slightly different shape as well. So there's history to this place, but hello, look at the run from the cars behind, coming out of nowhere there. Michael Coates and Mike Oswalt latching onto the back of the train here.
Mike Oswalt pushing Michael Coates had 5 miles an hour more on the 4 leaders, and so that's linked us up as a top 11. Tom Athon leads a group in 12th place just behind. A bit of a dive there from Odyssey Adams, I think. He gets ahead of Stadola, and this is our leading group of 11 drivers. Lee Martin and Jack Stadola are in this pack. Jack Stadola has just gotten to the lead of open class. They entered the banking with Martin leading it. Stadola's made a couple of moves and got himself up into 9th.
We're on board with Tom Athon at the moment, who's continuing to lead the battle for 12th, but Travis Hewitt, despite the damage, is picking up the slipstream nicely through Curva Grande. And he'll get on the brakes a little early for the second chicane. Steaming in behind is Geordie Fike. They're trying to make up some time on the Diet Coke livery of Andres Navarro. And this is the part of the circuit where the differences between the drivers really show up. I mean, the oval, it's just flat out. You don't really have any measure of skill difference. But when you come here onto the road course section, you really start to see drivers like Travis Hewitt start to round things up. He's not going to make the move on Athon, though. He's going to keep bump drafting him into Ascari.
Jared Collins will try to get in between. He'll try to get 2 spots. He's most of the way up there going into Ascari. Forces Tom Athon to be a little bit wide. And this will check up the momentum of this pack. But Collins is trying to get to the front of them. A larger gulf is opening up. Sean Hayes is dropping back, your previous race leader. Losing a lot of time. They're about to catch him.
Yeah, potentially. Tom Athon will see Sean Hayes now for company. It hasn't been an ideal lap for Hayes.
No, exiting the second Lesmo, Hayes was still race leader, being bumped by Brandon Hawkins. Something's happened that has cost Sean Hayes big time. Oh, massive curb hop.
And into the wall, into the tyre barrier out of Ascari. Managed to slow it up, but whether or not Hayes has damage that'll be affecting his straight line speed remains to be seen. Here he is then live into turn 1 as the pack, Jared Collins, Tom Athon, Travis Hewitt and Andres Navarro come up on him. Athon a bit boxed in. He doesn't have anywhere to go, but he can bump draft Hayes from here and maybe try to get something going on the low line.
Comes super tactical right here. They can barely see the race leader, Brandon Hawkins, up there being pushed along by Fisher and Peake. Navarro is thinking, do I push Hewitt here? And he holds back. Sean Hayes on the right-hand side there, limiting his options as well. Into the next bit of banking we go. Hayes gains initially on that lower line, but you always get more speed exiting the banking from this higher line where Travis Hewitt is going.
Yeah, exactly. Top speeds coming into the corner are about 220 kilometers per hour, which is round about what the speedometer of the MX-5 goes to in the real world. That was a big wiggle from the silver machine of Travis Hewitt. And he's able to keep it stable on the way into turn 1 of the Grand Prix circuit at the very least. Let's see what Hayes can do here. That's deep. That's even deeper for Athon, and he bumps Hayes. And oh, this could turn into something bad. Collins gets turned around.
Hewitt and Navarro take big avoiding action, but they're going to get big slowdowns. Geordie Fike's also got one. Gee, just a concertina bump there. One car into the other, and the dominoes fall.
Yeah, that they do. That's not ideal at all. Well, we'll have a good look at the foliage as we find our way back to Thomas Fisher and Brandon Hawken for the lead of the race. Just dragging the brakes a little bit into Lesmo 1. We started this race quite late in the day as well. I think we might potentially see the lights come on these cars before the checkered flag flies.
Yeah, the sun is super low, and then the trees casting long shadows, some of the valleys as well. We've still got 35 minutes to go. It will be very dark by the end. Brandon Hawkins come from second on the grid to lead this race. Thomas Fisher's come from sixth up into the second place here. Mitchell Peak from eighth on the grid now runs third. Rui Coimbra started 18th. He's part of the leading pack, and he is up 13 positions, and he has the fastest lap of the race. I'll be interested to see what happens for him exiting Parabolica here, because once we get onto that banking the first time around again, there will be 10 cars in the leading pack. We lost Sean Hayes from the leading group. We've still got 2 open class drivers in this top 10. But Coimbra has been the biggest mover so far. You open up the throttle and you don't let it go for a minute and a half.
I've been keeping my eye on the top right of the screen. You can just see in his rear view mirror the car of Mike Oswald pushing him along in the slipstream. And the
Triple
speed.
bump draft at the race lead there. Michael Coates following it. Opens up this gap to Coimbra, who we were riding on board with. Coimbra might like a little bit of a bump to help close this gap, but if you look forward, he is through the banking. 5 car lengths has become 3. It's probably going to become 2 as we come onto the oval back straight.
Yeah, here we go. 210 kilometers an hour breached onto the back stretch here, and the bump drafting for the lead is going well. We do see a slight run up from Michael Coates. It seems like Rui Coimbra not quite able to keep up with him there in the slipstream. But I think if I'm in Coimbra's position, I'm perfectly happy to mind my own business and sit behind these guys for the moment anyway. And we'll have to think about the pit stops very shortly as well. We are about a lap time's worth of time away from the pit window technically opening. You pit 1 lap earlier or later, it's probably going to separate you by quite a margin from the guys you were battling with.
Yeah, now take a look at Lee Martin in 8th, because a gap formed between Adams in 7th and Martin in 8th. This is the open class leaders bump drafting each other, trying to stay with the pack, and just at the end of the pit straight, they managed to close up what was a 1.5 second gap as they the leaders lifted into turn 1. It's 3 wide in the next group as Collier passes Hewitt and Geordie Fike. This is action aplenty, and this outrageous circuit.
Bit of gravel caught there for Tim Collier. His run onto Curva Grande has been compromised, and Travis Hewitt is going to catch up to him once again. The lap time difference is substantial. Bump draft versus no bump draft. Excuse me. Last lap for Tim Collier, 3:31.1. The leaders are running 3:26s.
Decision time for Travis Hewitt. It's like, do I get down the inside on Tim Collier? And he just waits going into the first Lesmo. Boy, is it looking dark. Collier runs wide, touches the gravel, and again, just waiting into Lesmo number 2.
Oh,
that's a big shortcut.
Yeah, I think he might have gotten a slowdown from that, Tim Collier. So I think Travis Hewitt will have no choice but to go by. Geordie Fike will follow him, but apparently the bump draft is still on coming into Ascari. Let's see how they work things out here. Late on the brakes for the car in front and using a lot of curb there. That's what I like to see. But seems like the run through the middle of the chicane not quite working out for Hewitt.
So it is, of course, a pack race on Monza combined. 3 packs have formed. 10 drivers for the lead. 5 drivers behind Tim Collier, and there's another group behind Tom Athon that could close up if Tim Collier continues to be erratic. His first, second, and third. No pit takers from your leading group just yet. This is a very high fuel consumption circuit. I think that narrows the pit window significantly.
So could we potentially be seeing everyone come in on the same lap? That's the question that I'm asking. And the moment Brandon Hawken moves for pit lane, I would expect pretty much everyone in the lead pack to follow him in, because you don't want to lose the slipstream. Hello, Rui Coimbra. Now he's making the run for the lead. Look at that. That's crazy.
He's got Adams coming with him as well. I thought, is he going to run out of momentum there and get caught? But no. Odyssey Adams goes with him. And the Not a Team guys are going to go to first and second if they can keep this up. Rui Coimbra nose in front at the moment. Odyssey Adams jumping up there with him. Brandon Hawken still with Mitchell Peak right behind him. And Thomas Fisher being very helpful as well. Jack Stodola there in 7th, open class leader. Got a car between himself and Lee Martin. And it's 2 groups heading down towards the first chicane. Stodola moves to the right lane.
Yeah, he's going to try and join Adams and Coimbra here. But Hawken, with more momentum off the top line, continuing to be pushed by Thomas Fisher as they make their way into turn 1. The Not a Team guys lift out a little later for turns 1 and 2. There's contact between them, but somehow they managed to all get through the first chicane nicely. And that has split the teammates of Peak and Fisher.
We've already been to Richmond Raceway this season in Spec-5 World Tour, and somehow this is racing more like an oval than Richmond did. The speeds are higher, and that Monza oval is a real super speedway. On board right now with Mitchell Peak, back into 5th position right now. Bouncing across the curbs, the tyre temperature, the brake temperature all get really weird with that time on the oval. Brandon Hawken still leads us. Geordie Fike to the lead of pack number 2 as Tim Collier has been shuffled back into 15th. Rob Conahan leads the group in 16th, and look at that, they're sort of a second and a half behind group number 2. I think if they can get 2 or 3 cars linked up there, that ought to be able to close it. And that means if you're, for example, Mark Cheng in 22nd position, you can still see 11th just up the road from you. You could jump them with good pit timing. If you can get someone to work with you, you could jump them as well. So many positions are still in play.
Geordie Fike just had an off. There he was, falling behind just then. He ran a bit deep in Lesmo 2, I think. We're going to get a replay of that. He was up ahead of Andres Navarro, but a bit too much curb on the way in turns into too much curb in the gravel on the way out. A good save. Managed to keep it rolling straight and out of the wall, but he has lost a few positions and has fallen back into what is now the 3rd pack that's formed for 15th.
Brandon Hawken crosses the start-finish line. Not seeing anyone go for pit entry just yet. No one wants to be the first driver to jump. We've got someone who's half a lap down. Kyle Genske is on the other side of that concrete wall. We've got drivers going side by side in both lanes. It happens sometimes. So the lead gaps are going to shrink. This is Fisher in 2nd. Rui Coimbra gets so much momentum. Is his teammate Adams going to go with him again? Are they going to step out of line as they close up Hawken and Fisher?
Let's see then, or are they going to commit to the long game and stay behind? It looks like they're going to stick with them here, but have a look at the run from Mitchell Peak. He's going to try and rejoin Thomas Fisher here. No, he's going to go for the lead. Look at that momentum. That's ridiculous. Where did he pick up that draft? It looks like Michael Coates is going to try and follow him through as well. Stodola gets to the back of the pack. A little tap of the brakes there from Michael Coates. It looks like he's found a spot he wants to blend into.
Mike Oswalt gets a bit of momentum down there as well. Peak moves up. Brandon Hawken moves up even higher. 3 lanes as Michael Coates stays down low. Brandon Hawken back to the lead of the race. 3 lanes is going to be real sketchy. Exiting the banking here onto the front straight. Coates now losing his momentum. Brandon Hawken pushing his nose into the lead. Thomas Fisher helping him along. Stodola sitting in the open class lead in 6th place outright.
Just making his way out of the pits there was Donnie Moffat, I believe, on the right-hand side of screen as they find their way into the chicane. Lots of room given. They're all well aware that it's more important to be behind on the oval. Brandon Hawken now 3/4 of a second in the lead, and I think it's going to stay that way for the majority of the time here on the road course section. Once they get back onto the oval, though, we are going to be seeing some massive momentum from the drivers behind. There's some jostling about in the pack for 11th as well. Travis Hewitt has moved to the front of that. Andres Navarro chasing him and might try a move back at Variante della Roggia.
The whole gang is together here. Travis Hewitt in 11th place, but there is a huge pack behind him with Navarro, Conahan, Tim Collier picking up another spot. Geordie Fike has stabilised in 15th place. He gets down the inside of the chicane there with Tanner Greta near him, Ryan Pandisio, Tom Athon, Peter Rasorkas, Sean Hayes, Mark Cheng, everyone in this group here. There's Athon alongside Kruger. Oh, close to contact there at the first Lesmo. Athon runs very wide, loses a couple of spots. His momentum lost, and it's so critical.
Yeah, he can get some of it back here on the exit of Lesmo too. Might just be able to hitch on to the slipstream of Sean Hayes there. Hayes now the one of the biggest drops of position in the field. The only one higher, Donnie Moffat, who's down in 25th. But Moffat has just taken his pit stop, worth remembering. So we'll have to wait and see where he blends in with all of these other packs. For now, though, my timing is telling me 7 laps remain as we're now past 25 minutes to go.
Yep, so not quite at the halfway point yet. Leaders stay out, and I love when this happens. You get someone on the other part of the front straight, on the other side of the wall. That is, Kyle Gensky again, I believe there. He can see the leaders. He'll wish he was on the same part of the track in the same lap as them. Brandon Hawken leads us onto the banking with Peak behind. Rui Coimbra has ended up back in 5th place, but he often gets so much momentum here. I wonder if he's going to go for that run again. Fisher looks to the right-hand side.
Is Coates going to join him? Yep, looks like he was just picking up a little bit extra slipstream off Mitchell Peak, and now the bump is going to come in here. A little bit of a tappy tap on the rear bumper, and that could be the run to the lead there for Thomas Fisher. He's ahead of Hawken on the way into the corner, but Brandon Hawken has been sticking to that yellow line or just above it pretty much the whole race. And you talked about the line of least resistance, David. That's exactly what he's doing there. He's just getting that little bit of extra speed in the mid-corner, but a high exit from Mitchell Peak might give him some more momentum coming onto the straight.
A buffet of slipstream as the leaders were going 3 wide. Oswald got great momentum, and it's a Roman box formation. Here comes Odyssey Adams to become part of that top 8 you can see heading down towards turn 1. You got to lift off very early, and a couple of early little taps of the brakes from the drivers deeper in the pack. Still, the concertina effect absolutely brutal. Next pack back, we are 3 wide with Hewitt, Tannegretta, and Navarro.
Oh yeah, this is looking interesting.
The other side.
Here we go. Who's going to come out of turn 1? Out of Retafilio ahead, I should say. Leading on the way in is Travis Hewitt, but a dive up the inside from Michael Tannegretta all over the curb. Is that going to be enough to trigger a slowdown? Doesn't look like it. He is going to slot nicely into 12th place. 14 spots gained for Tannegretta. Same for Navarro and Pandisio behind.
Cooling the right side tyres for Geordie Fike there. Interesting tactic. I smell a little bit of in-lap from some here. If you're, say, Odyssey Adams and Rui Coimbra and you want to sort this out, you could stop this lap and then spend the next lap bump drafting and hope that could be your winning strategy. Not too many other groups of teammates we could see pull that off.
Yeah, worth thinking about. It's a difficult thing to work out in your head because, like, yes, you do have a teammate to help you, but it's only one other car that you've got helping you there. You're not going to get the same kind of lap time benefit that you would drafting in a pack like this.
Tom Athon's picked up a meatball flag and he is slowing to a stop.
Not ideal for Athon. We'll very quickly see what happened to him. I'm going to keep an eye on live pictures to see if our leaders come into pit lane. Oh dear, looks like Rasokis getting into him there in the Lesmos, and that was a big hit.
Yeah, he gets drilled by what might have been Mark Kruger. Kruger's going slow and damaged there. Everyone's staying out of the pit lane from the lead 10. And here comes Mitchell Peake looking for the race lead. A bit of a gap emerges between Jack Stadola in 8th and Lee Martin in 9th. So we'll see if Martin and Jabelski can close that gap while they're on the banking here. Travis Stewart, Geordie Fike, Ryan Pendicio, Sean Hayes, Rob Conahan all pit. So our leaders stay out. Some of the other drivers are going to pit.
Yeah, it looks like Tanagretta and Navarro were with the pack that pitted, but they elected not to go for pit lane. They might have been caught out by a late decision to pull in from the other cars. So we'll see what benefit, if any, that gives them. For now, it looks like Brandon Hawken is going to be stuck down on the low line for the first time here in this race. And oh no, it's all gone off!
Hawken in the wall hard. Peake in the wall as they went into turns 3 and 4 on the banking. They came together, the right lane and the left lane. Peake up high, gets turned by Fisher down into Hawken. That's what happened. Everyone else avoids, but for Brandon Hawken and Mitchell Peake, race ending damage. Thomas Fisher leads from Michael Coates and Odyssey Adams. My goodness, but here comes Odyssey with momentum into the race lead. Our front group has been split, and also a gap emerges between Lee Martin and Jack Stadola. This is great for Stadola. He's part of the top 5. Lee Martin and Brian Jabelski have lost out.
I don't usually make replay requests, but I would like to see an onboard of that incident from Rui Coimbra's perspective. I think you'll be quite impressed with his with the care that he took. You don't often see drivers jumping on the brakes on ovals to avoid an incident. They usually just drive right through it, but Coimbra played this one pretty well. See the incident happen, he's immediately on the brakes, and whoop! Just avoids getting damage. Nicely done.
So we've had about 2/3 of the field pit. Now it's our top 11 of 32 cars that haven't stopped yet, led by Odyssey Adams, Thomas Fisher and Michael Coates. Mike Oswald, Jack Stadola 5th, and Rui Coimbra. Lee Martin and Brian Jabelski lost about 5 seconds to the leaders. And for Lee Martin challenging for the open class win, that's been very, very costly.
It certainly has. I don't know if we're going to be seeing much of a change there. It all depends on how the pit cycle goes and whether or not the leaders can avoid any big ones like the one we just saw. The headlights are on. The sun has officially set here at Monza, still with 18 minutes or so left on the clock. And Fisher is going to go for the lead into Parabolica. But is the next destination going to be pit lane for our lead pack?
Seeing 2 types of pit stops from those that have pitted, sort of 18-second stops and 23-second stops. I think there's a difference in how long they think this might go for. Everyone's coming in from up front here, so Fisher leads in the whole group. 5 to go. This might be about all they can do. Big laps, high fuel consumption, and there's still 5 to go. So everyone comes in. Thomas Fisher led us. He finds his pit stall. Oswald overshoots his. Not seeing a whole lot of left side tyre change going on, even though there should be plenty of time for it.
I do see that Fisher's gone for left side tyres, so has Adams. I wouldn't be surprised if the majority of them do that. Brandon Hawken just coming into his pit stall as the leaders leave, and that's really unfortunate for Brandon. This is going to be basically the first race of the season where he's not in contention for the win by the time the pit cycle's complete. Again,
it's some 22-second pit stops and some 18-second pit stops. 16.9 from Thomas Fisher. He exits with a 4-second race lead. That's going to get run down quickly.
Oh, it certainly is. And I get the feeling if he's decided to take a bit less fuel in the stop, he'll want everyone to catch up to him, because punching the hole in the air for yourself down these straights with so much on throttle time, it's going to burn through the fuel tank.
So it was 4 seconds. Here comes Odyssey Adams with a double slipstream past the bump drafting duo. He comes into second place. It's now 3.5 seconds to the race leader, and evaporating quickly at about, they're running him down basically at 5 miles an hour.
Yes, and they might just be able to get within a second of him or so by the time they get to the end of the straight here. But the gap will come now under 3 seconds with 15 minutes remaining. And is there going to be a move here from Coates into turn 1? No. I think he's content to let Odyssey pull him along.
Oswald's lift and coast was massive there. He sort of cracked it to half throttle, 500 feet before the braking zone, and then coasted it in from even before that as well. And in the space of about 1.5 minutes, the race lead has come down about 1.5 seconds. Fisher's going from 3.9 to 2.5. And next time they come around onto the banking, I suspect it'll be even more drastic. We ride on board with the open class leader, Jack Stadola. Another wedge driven between himself and second in class, Lee Martin, as he is now 10 seconds clear of Martin. They were inseparable in the pack.
Whoa! Big slide there from Rui Coimbra, saves it. And Jack Stadola will take the position, but goodness me. Rui was all over the place there on the exit of De La Roggia. It's a brutal curb at that second apex. If you hit it right, it's one of the best feelings in the sim that you can get. But yeah, it seems the rear end wasn't quite cooperating with Rui there.
No, I think he might have gone new left side tyres, and that's the first time he ever really needed to use them. Perhaps. Race lead is down to 1 second now, and shrinking. So the quick pit stop for Thomas Fisher just means he might be a bit short on fuel come this second half, and it has not given him any workable lead or advantage.
Yeah, just stay in the slipstream and hope from this stage, I would imagine. And the lead comes down now to 1 second. Bit wide there for Adams on the exit of Parabolica. That's going to leave the door open to Coates to move through on his right-hand side. But now it will be Odyssey Adams' turn to do the bump draft. Slots in, picks up the slipstream, and you'll see that top speed climb.
Yes, and the drivers behind them have also got a massive stretched out rubber band slingshot about to close them towards the top 5. So they enter the banking, 2.3 seconds covering the top 5. They make moves like this, and it all begins to shrink up. Jack Stadola and Rui Coimbra get big slipstream. Thomas Fisher's lead now down 0.5 seconds. A lap ago, it was 4 seconds. Now it's nothing.
And look at the run from Stadola. He could actually go for the overall win at this point. The momentum that he's carrying is incredible. Michael Coates is going to try and stick with him here and should be able to get by Thomas Fisher by the time they get into the second turn of the oval. But Adams still holds on. Look at the run further back from Rui Coimbra. He's been a master of picking up the slipstream and slingshotting himself to the front of the pack, and he will rejoin his not-a-team teammate.
That rubber band effect is ludicrous with these cars on the Monza oval. Stadola now getting pushed back to the lead of the race, and he had the longest pit stop of everyone in the top 5. He took the most fuel, and I really like that. I really like that for this back half of the race.
I do as well. More fuel allows you more opportunity to keep the throttle pinned to the floor. Don't have to worry about saving fuel. And you have room to play a bit more tactically with your fuel usage, your power usage as well. Mike Oswald, though, at the back of the pack, probably one of the best placed in terms of potential for passes. He's got the slipstream of 5 cars ahead of him here.
So Fisher with the shortest stop, Stodola with the longest, but Adams, Coimbra and Coates somewhere in the middle. I feel like everyone but Brandon Hawken got to save about the same amount of fuel in the first stint. So that I feel like all of these drivers should have been pretty equal coming into the pit stop, and then they've taken some quite different fuel drop amounts.
Yes. Well, at the moment, yeah, it looks like Fisher's the one at the biggest disadvantage right now, followed by Oswald. But some pretty consistent pit stop times from everyone else in the top 6, apart from Stodola, who, as you mentioned, has the longest pit stop of this pack. 10 minutes remain, 3 laps to go, and we're still not entirely sure what our podium is going to look like.
Top 6 pretty tight coming into Parabolica. They're 10 seconds clear of Lee Martin and Brian Chabelski together in 7th and 8th. Brandon Hawken is all on his lonesome in 9th. Geordie Fike leads a group in 10th place. Jack Stodola will be credited as the lap leader. And it is touch and go if it's 3 or 4 more laps to race.
Yeah, so with 3 minutes and 20-something seconds a lap, yeah, multiply that by 3.
I think it's 4 more. I think it's 4 more.
Do you think? I think it's still 3, because 3 minutes 24 seconds times 3, that's over 10 minutes. So, yeah, we've got 3 laps to go.
And we've got 2 lanes. Jack Stodola on the right, Rui Coimbra and Odyssey Adams on the left. Thomas Fisher pushing, Michael Coates and Mike Oswald in some very strong fuel-saving positions there. But Mike Oswald might need that.
Yeah, I think he will. He's probably going to be more than content to stay behind here. The advantage of slipstreaming so close is you can actually lift off the power a bit and still get the benefit of the slipstream and stay in touch with the driver ahead, so you can save a little bit of fuel on the straights. But I don't know how many of these drivers are going to be thinking about that, apart from Mike Oswald and maybe Thomas Fisher. It's going to be flat-out racing the rest of the way, at least for Stodola's troubles here. He has the inside into turn 1, but Rui Coimbra is deep on the brakes there, trying to maintain the spot through Rettifilio, and almost contact on the exit as Stodola was wide at the second apex.
Interesting to think about that on the final lap of the race, we'll be coming to the checkered flag on the exit of Parabolica. So we open the final lap with the full throttle oval section, but complete the final lap with the Grand Prix circuit.
Just keeping an eye here on this run into Lesmo. This has turned into one of the most significant places on the lap. You know, they're medium speed corners compared to other turns on this layout, but they turn out to be the most important for throttle application. Half of your momentum on a lap is taken out of these turns, and it seems like some better momentum here for Rui Coimbra, and he will take the lead. Thomas Fisher will move past Jack Stodola. I like this from Jack. He's positioned himself very well for the final 2 laps.
Yeah, that reeks of Stodola seeing them coming up and letting them go and dropping into this 3rd place. And he seems to get good momentum on the oval at times as well. But now this reeks of Coimbra trying to make Stodola and Fisher go back through. Fisher's not going to want to. Stodola drops back in line. Oh man, this suddenly looks like quite a different race when they know they're coming to 2 laps to go.
Well, the track is getting ever darker as well. The beams of the headlights really the only proper sources of light out here. Penultimate lap begins. And they compress up once again, but Stodola is not going for it. Let's see if the same thing is done here for Adams. Not quite. Adams is going to try and join his teammate at the front of the field, up on the high line, dragging Michael Coates along.
It's so ridiculous how this racetrack works because they've all stopped bump drafting each other near as much as they were earlier, and the pace dropped from 326 to 330 when everyone just begun to crack the throttle and sit off the rear bumper of the driver in front rather than pushing each other along, going 5 miles an hour faster along all of the oval and the long double front stretch. So the pace has dropped because of that. Obviously, Adams takes the race lead. Michael Coates following him. Mike Oswald hasn't bump drafted anyone. He's always sat that 2 feet off the bumper of the car in front.
You never know, that might pay off for him as the Not a Team teammates lock out effectively the front row of this battle. Now it's going to be interesting to see which of them gets into Rettifilio first. Stodola was swapping around a little bit, high line versus low line on the oval. He's going to lift out very early and just let this unfold in front of him. Fisher to the inside at turn 1, but Coimbra is later on the brakes, manages to still make the apex.
Very, very clever stuff. The duo of Martin and Jabelski not able to catch these leaders. Third in open class is Ryan Pandisio, leading a group that's got Rob Conahan, Geordie Fike and Travis Hewitt in it. Michael Tannegrader leads a group in 14th place. So there's going to be lots of packs of 4 and 5 cars coming to the checkered flag. This is the one that contains the battle for the final podium step in open class. So that's Pandisio and Conahan going side by side for that. Around the outside, Pandisio holds onto it. Hayes, Tannegrader, Resorkis and Navarro just behind that. Tony Moffat has gotten back into this race and runs in 18th with Collier. I hope that, Moffat pitted 5 laps into the race, so he might just have enough fuel to make it.
Yeah, maybe only just.
Checking back with the race lead, on board with second for a moment there. Rui Coimbra leads, heading towards the white flag. They're heading towards Ascari, then Parabolica, and then our last time on Monza's famous historic banking.
Yes, the famous historic banking that is not used for mainstream racing events anymore. It's in too much disrepair to really be used by anything other than rally cars occasionally. But in iRacing, they smoothed out the scan a bit and made it raceable for every type of car. We've gotten some fantastic events out of it, to be sure, and another track to fill out the oval schedules. Well, white flag is in the air, and Rui Coimbra leads us across the line. Will he remain in the lead when the checkered flag falls?
It's time to do it for Dale. Rui Coimbra has Thomas Fisher behind, but Adams tries to make a jump to the right. Stodola also jumping to the inside lane as we enter the banking and they dip down. It's almost 2 groups of 3. It's 3 wide back there. Stodola way down low. Adams leading. Coimbra's going to try to find a way to drop in, but he's got Stodola to his inside now, so he can't. He's got to hold that outside line. Hope that Michael Coates goes with him.
They will get the ramp effect here off the first turn of the oval. That gives them a little bit of extra momentum, and if they stick high, the same will be true on the way onto the Grand Prix start-finish straight. And it looks like Mike Oswald's playing this nicely. He's going to stick with them, and Stodola, well, he's doing the same thing he did on the last lap. He's going high for the moment, and I think he might stick there this time. We'll have to wait and see.
They're playing the risky game of bump drafting on the banking. You can do it, but you don't want to do it too early in the race. Here comes Stodola with good momentum. Done this a couple of times, coming out of the banking onto the front straight and then picking up his pace there. Just checks his run a little bit. Adams and Coimbra pacing the pack. Coates slots in between. 3 wide heading down towards the chicane.
Who's last of the late breakers in this one? Coimbra on the inside will have the apex, but it's a slight bit later on the brakes there from Michael Coates, and he's going to take the lead round the outside of turn 1 as turned around is Odyssey Adams. Not a Team is one man down as they make their way out. And now it's just a top 3 battle for the win. It looked like Fisher and Oswalt lost time in that incident too.
Pandisio and Fike are going to battle. Looks like Pandisio's holding on to third in the open class for the moment. Michael Coates 2 car lengths ahead of Coimbra as they go into the second chicane. Coates runs really deep. He's out wide. Rui Coimbra has to check his momentum, but he's still going to take the race lead away here. Surely just going to hold Coates out wide on the way into the first Lesmo. Jack Stadola runs in third place. How strong is the slipstream going to be out of Ascari? Because that's what's going to decide the race winner.
Stadola's nice and early on the brakes into Lesmo 2. He's looking for momentum on the exit. He wants to get as close as he can on the way into Ascari, because it will be those final moves into the braking zone of Parabolica that decide how this race turns out. Stadola, I think, has faith in Coates that he'll be able to challenge Coimbra, and maybe Stadola will be able to follow him through. We have an open class car in the podium spots. Will we see an open class car take the overall win here at Monza?
Coimbra's done well through the Ascari chicane, gotten himself half a second. While the slipstream is powerful for these cars, it's nothing like it is on that banking, and he might just be able to do this. Checkered flag comes up quickly out of the exit of this final corner as well, so it's on the way into here where your options exist. If Coimbra can get a good enough exit here, he's heading towards the checkered flag. 45 minutes of Monza combined. A wicked combination of 2 circuits into one, and it's going to be a very close podium, but Rui Coimbra from Michael Coates and Jack Stadola, the open class winner, sits on the podium.
Lovely stuff. Ultimately just over 1/10 of a second in it between them, and that will be a well-earned victory from Rui Coimbra. He dialed in the aggression exactly when he needed to and stayed out of trouble. Looks like Travis Ewart just gained a couple of extra spots. He's now claimed 10th from Pandisio and Conahan.
I think Hawken got caught by Lee Martin and Brian Chabelski on the final lap, but then got back by them exiting the final corner.
Yeah, it looks like that's what happened. Good recovery from Hawken, all things considered. 7th place for him in the end, committing to the run into pit lane. That's the finish there. Between Hawken, Martin, and Zabelski.
Yeah, super close. A bunch of other packs and drivers coming to the checkered flag. Tanagretta, Kruger, Blanchard, Athon, Murgatroyd, Collier, all still to come. This says Paul Murgatroyd 3 pit stops.
Yeah, it looks like Murgatroyd had quite a chaotic race. He only just came out of the pits on this lap, so things have gone wrong for the driver of the 707. Tom Athon just crossing the line ahead of him there, and Murgatroyd will round out your top 20 for this one.
An attritional race, to be sure, because the drivers that aren't going to see the checkered flag are Lincoln Fox, Eugenio Polici, Jared Collins, Damon Pacheco, Peter Asokis and Donnie Moffat. It seems like Mitchell Peake might have gotten back out there after a long and lengthy stop. And there's just a couple of drivers to come around and see the checkered flag. Cheng and Coimbra are close enough that it could change. I think it will. I think Paulo Coimbra is about to pass Mark Cheng. There's a few... Oh, and Collier's out of fuel. So Coimbra, between the final corner and the checkered flag, is going to get 2 because Cheng's out of fuel as well.
Wow. Nice little change of fortune on the way up to the line. You see the difference in pace right there.
I think there are a few drivers that spent the first half of the race in the pack and were misled to believe that that's what the second half of the race would look like them too. But the difference between being part of a 15-car pack on the banking and doing it alone is monumental.
Well, that it is. And with that, it looks like everyone is across the line and we can go through our results.
Yep, that finally locks it in. Rory Coimbra wins the race from Michael Coates, and Jack Stadola gets a big points haul up in third position. Thomas Fisher finishes fourth, Mike Oswald in fifth, Odyssey Adams in sixth, Brandon Hawken in seventh, Lee Martin with eighth, Brian Jabelski with ninth, and Travis Hewitt in 10th. Ryan Pandicio 11th from Rob Conahan, Geordie Fike, Andreas Navarro, and Sean Hayes. Michael Tannegretta, Mark Kruger, Glenn Blanchard, Tom Athon, and Paul Murgatroyd taking us to 20th. 13 laps completed and the other cars on the lead lap. Paulo Coimbra with some late spots there as Cheng and Collier ran out of fuel. Kyle Genske, then Jared Brady, Peter Resorkis, and Donnie Moffat also close at the end. I wonder if one of them coughed and spluttered. And they still finish on the lead lap. Peak 5 laps down, Pacheco 8 laps down, Collins only completing 3 laps, and Eugenio Polici and Lincoln Fox exiting this race at the first chicane on lap 1.
Well, that was quite the tough race for many drivers, but I think Rui Coimbra is certainly going to take that from 18th up to first. A solid drive. And same for Jack Stadola as well, taking the open win, starting 15th and made his way up to third in the end. Oval racing is almost always about staying out of trouble, and though this track is only half oval technically, it still counts for something, and the drivers that were able to work the slipstream properly and find their way through when things went wrong for others are the ones who come out on top today.
I'm not a biologist, but I think that the Grand Prix configuration is already half oval. So when you combine that with an oval, Monza combined is in fact 3/4 oval.
Yes, good point. We'll have to get our calculators out for that.
Unfortunately, I do not see Rory Coimbra or Jack Stadola not only waiting to chat to us, but anywhere in the server, and Michael Coates neither. So no one on our podium wants to chat, which is disappointing, but boy, did we see a lot of talking out on track.
Oh, we did, with cars and vocal cords alike. Well, ultimately, quite happy with how that went. It was an incredibly fun race. I'm just trying to bring up the calendar here to see which one is the next race we've got. We're going to the Bend on the 16th of April. So that's going to be quite a fun time indeed. We'll have to wait and see how they work here at one of the premier sports car circuits in Australia.
From an incredibly historic track to the Bend, but it will be very interesting. We've had a great season. Rory Coimbra and Michael Coates and Jack Stadola all get great points. Not a good result for Brandon Hawken. Might shuffle up the points somewhat, and Open Class will be a championship to watch with 4 races left in the Spec-5 World Tour this season. You'll see them all here on HJBC with myself, David Haynes, Reese Gardner, and Michael Derby. Congratulations to our winners. What a race and what a track. We'll see you next week.